Hello, my name's Ella. I'm 28 years old and I just put my mother-in-law from hell in her place. But before I tell you what went down, let me give you some backstory. My husband Curtis and I met when we were in our senior year of college. We happened to be in the same elective and we got to talking. Before long, we were dating. Curtis is truly the best man I could have ever asked for. He's loving, caring, kind, and very supportive of everything I want to do. He's always had my back no matter what. After Curtis and I graduated, we decided to focus on our careers for a little bit. We moved in together and life was going pretty well. Curtis secured a pretty good desk job and I worked as a manager at our local coffee shop. We didn't have a lot of disposable income, but we made enough. After about 2 years of focusing on our careers, we decided to get married. That was truly one of the happiest days of my life, and my life only got better from there. But I was not entirely happy with my job. I struggled really hard to get a job in my field, but I mostly only managed to get responses from companies and businesses that seemed shady. Until one day, I managed to get a call back from a pretty well-reputed organization. The only drawback was that I would only be paid after my first month with them. I would get paid a base salary, of course, but that amount was practically nothing, and even when I would get paid properly, it would depend on how much work I did, clients I secured. The plus was that I got to work from home. Now, I knew that this wasn't exactly the best job opportunity. But I also knew that having this firm in my resume would boost it and allow me to get better jobs later. After a lot of lengthy discussions with Curtis, we decided that it would be best for me to take up that job. The issue was the pay cut. I would no longer be contributing to the household expenses the way I did. Not to mention the lease on our apartment would be ending and we wouldn't be able to afford the rent and survive without me contributing. So we decided to ask Curtis's mother, Ruby, if we could stay with her. So, Mom, we kind of need to ask you for a favor. Yes, what is it? We're in a really bad place financially right now. Curtis, I have no money to give you. No, we don't need the money. It's just that we need a few months to just properly save up. Okay? And Ella has found herself a better job right now, so we know we can start saving properly. We were just wondering if maybe you'd be open to us living with you for a few months. Oh. It's just that our lease is ending next month and the rent has increased a little too much above our budget. It would be really wonderful if you could help us out. How long would you intend on staying? Not more than 7 months for sure. And will you be contributing towards utilities? We will, at least to the best of our ability for the first 3 months. After we have found our footing, we'll pay for everything that can be split. And what do I get out of this? Huh? If I let you both come live with me, what do I get? You get free shelter? And me? Well, we'll take care of all the household chores and errands, if that helps. That might. I've recently joined our neighborhood's women empowerment group. It's really nice and I do want to spend as much time as I can there without having to worry about coming back home with a lot of things to do. We promise you that we'll take that off your shoulders. I'm very particular about the way I like things, so you will have to watch out. That won't be a problem. All right then, move in whenever you have to, although do give me a week's notice so I can prepare the spare bedroom for both of you. I will admit that I was severely thrown off by how Ruby asked us what she would get in return for letting us stay there. I mean, if my son ever asked me if he could move back in with me because he was struggling financially, the answer would have been a resounding yes, no questions asked. Curtis was also thrown off by it, but we decided that it was best not to dwell on it. I especially didn't want to think about it too much because I had a lot of mixed feelings about Ruby. Ruby made it very clear from the start of Curtis and I's relationship that she was very indifferent towards me. Sometimes she wouldn't even acknowledge me. Thinking about the way she treated us would only make me dislike her, and I didn't want that to ruin our relationship. We eventually moved into her place after our lease was done. Initially, Ruby was respectful of our time and space. I also began working at my new job, so sometimes when Ruby would come home, she'd see me sitting on my laptop. She'd shoot me a look of disgust and move on. I let it go once again because I did not want to start something when there was no reason to. Curtis and I made sure to do all the housework we could around the house. At first, Ruby didn't say anything about it, but then she slowly began to get aggressive about it. She'd come home in a happy mood, take one look around, and immediately get upset. She'd slam doors and throw her things around to show that she was upset. Once again, we never confronted her, and she decided one day she'd had enough. "This place is dusty. What have you been doing?" I've been working." "Lies. How dare you waste your time doing nothing?" "Ruby, I literally have my work open on my laptop in front of you. What are you going on about?" "I know that all you do is sit on your butt and scroll through social media." "Technically, that is a part of my job." "I don't care what values you were raised with, but as the only non-working member of this household, you have to clean and cook for Curtis and me." "I don't think that's happening. I do work. You just don't accept it because I work from home instead of in an office at a desk." "Are you trying to disobey me?" "No, I'm not. You live under my roof and eat my food. I provide you with so much, and you repay me by being disobedient." "No, you don't work, and you live under my roof, and you are a woman. It is your duty to obey me. If I say that I want you to do something, you follow through without ever questioning it or talking back to me. Do you understand?" "Yeah, sure." "That's good. Let's start again tomorrow. When I get back home, I need to see that everything, and I mean everything, is spick and span. Not a speck of dust. You hear me?" "Yes." "Great. Now start making dinner." I felt upset and humiliated by the way in which Ruby treated me. She knew that us staying with her was kind of a low point for us, but the way that she just casually threw it in my face made me feel embarrassed to my core. So I stopped working and began to prepare dinner. My mind was a mess of emotions, and at many points I felt my tears threatening to fall out. But I kept them in. When it was time for dinner, Ruby came into the kitchen to see what I had prepared. She looked at it with mild disgust and said that she expected better from me. She ate it anyway, but she kept making comments about how she would have improved the recipe. Curtis was home in time for dinner, and he seemed surprised that I cooked, especially because the both of us had been planning on eating from out. He too remained silent when Ruby kept making her comments about my recipe, only because I motioned for him to keep quiet. But the second that it was only the two of us in our room, Curtis asked me why I had made food. "You made the food today?" "Kind of didn't have a choice." "What do you mean? Didn't we decide that we'd eat out tonight?" "Well, your mother kind of laid it into me today." "What are you talking about?" "Your mother began yelling at me as soon as she came home because the table was dusty. She kept telling me that I wasn't working all day, so it was my duty as a woman to ensure the house was spotless." "But you are working." "Yeah, I tried to tell her, but she wouldn't listen to me." "Why did you listen to her, though? You're usually good at standing up for yourself." "Well, she kept reminding me about how I was living under her roof. I already feel crappy that we're in a difficult place, and she just kept repeating it. I guess I felt guilty enough to just listen to what she was saying." "What the hell? That's not okay. First of all, I promise you, we'll go apartment hunting tomorrow. I can't live in a place where you're not treated right. Secondly, I don't want you to listen to anything she says. I'll handle her." We don't have the money to go apartment hunting. I can borrow some from a friend for a deposit. I'll do anything to make sure that you're comfortable in your own place. Oh, babe, no. Let's just wait it out. We just need to bear with your mom for another 3 to 4 months, and we'll have more than enough money to live on our own. But you'll be exhausted every single day. Not if I do something. What are you thinking about? Isn't your mother part of some women empowerment group? Yes. Why does that matter? What if I recorded her treating me like crap purely because I'm a jobless woman? I could play that in front of her club. And well, that would be fun. You know what? I like this. Let's do it. I cannot even begin to tell you how relieved I was to know that Curtis was on my side about the whole thing. I knew that he would have my back, but usually when it comes to their mothers, men get defensive. I was just glad that Curtis took the time to see who was actually wrong. The next day we ordered the hidden camera, and when they arrived a week later, we set it up in different rooms of the house that were the common areas for all 3 of us. I continued to listen to Ruby and do everything she asked of me, but no matter what I did or how I did it, Ruby would always have an issue with it, to the point where she would hurl insults at me for being a bad woman. I was genuinely shocked that she held such beliefs when she was one of the leading speakers for her women empowerment group, something she never failed to mention almost every other day. Ruby would tell us all about her great speeches and how the group was changing her mindset, but immediately after she would treat me like I was some slave to her. She was lost in her contradictory behavior, and I wasn't going to be the one that pointed it out to her. She made me cry many, many times, and I had to be the one that held Curtis back from saying anything to her. The only thing that kept me going was that I was going to expose her for the fraud that she was one day. Curtis and I stayed with her for another 3 months. Those months were positively the most hellish ones I've ever lived. Not only did I not get to properly work, but I also had to clean the house at least twice a day, so she would get snippy with me. Eventually, Curtis and I had saved up enough to deposit a new apartment. We found one that we liked and decided to move in within the next week. On the last night that we were spending with Ruby, she did not hesitate to once again go berserk about the food and its quality. "This meal is disgusting." "Mom, that's unnecessary. It's delicious." "Ella, I'm sorry, Ruby, but I've made this before and you've never had a problem with it." "Yeah, well, I don't know what you did today, but it's atrocious." "I'm sorry. I was really tired today. I had a lot of work and I had to clean the house too." "Don't give me pathetic excuses. How do you even call yourself a woman?" "Excuse me?" "You are a disgrace. Every woman should know how to handle multiple things at once." "You've never had a problem when I've messed something up when I was tired. What's the big deal here?" "No, sweetie, it's perfectly fine for you to not be able to do something. You being tired is understandable considering how hard you work. As for Ella, all she does is waste her time on her phone and laptop." "Are you saying that because Curtis is a man? His tiredness is greater than mine?" "Obviously. You're at home all day. How could you possibly be tired?" "Aside from the fact that even though I'm home doesn't mean that I'm not working, do you honestly think that taking care of the house and the people living in it is not labor? It's still tiring." "Nonsense. Going out and working a real job is way more tiring than simply vacuuming the floors and making a meal. Didn't your women's empowerment group just discuss how household labor is still labor? How it's unpaid labor that's way more taxing than working a desk job?" "Oh, you know that I don't believe all that mumbo jumbo. I only go there because I have nothing else to do." Wow. Just wow. I have nothing to say to you. I have been slaving away all day for the past 3 months, and you have never once shown any kind of appreciation for it. Maybe you should try to understand the things your group discusses. What my group and I do is none of your business. As for your work around the house, you will get my appreciation the day you do everything right. There's not been a single day where I haven't seen something wrong with what you've done. That's only because you keep searching for faults. At this point, I feel like I'm your slave. You are. It's your duty to obey me. I only want what's best for my son, and if it means treating you like a slave, then so be it. Best for me? What do you even mean by that? I feel bad that you married this pathetic excuse of a woman. You deserve someone who will wait on you hand and foot. I feel ashamed when I see you do the things she's supposed to do. That's called pulling your weight. Our gender doesn't decide what we do. We do things equally. What is your problem? Nonsense. This generation and its ideas are going to doom the world. Disgusting. I can't even look at you right now. I knew that I needed to expect to hear crazy things coming out of Ruby's mouth, but that did not change the fact that it was still so jarring and shocking to hear. She had no hesitation in calling me a slave just because I was a woman, and it was my duty. The way she just blatantly disregarded my occupation, my time, and my effort made my blood boil. I tried my hardest to keep my composure, but at some point I couldn't just say something. I could tell that Curtis was struggling to grapple with the words that his mother said too, but his eyes were wide and his jaw was dropped. Thankfully, he maintained some composure, and that was what kept me calm. I knew that I needed to hear her say those words, considering I was recording it. I didn't want either Curtis or I to come out in a bad light. When I sent the tape to her group, I wanted them to see what we were dealing with, not that we were making Ruby behave that way. After Ruby left us in the dining room to go to her room, which she locked herself in, I took out my phone and began going through every room in the house and recording it. I swiped all the furniture with my finger and showed it to the camera to show how clean I had kept it. I was going to use it to showcase just how absurd Ruby's behavior was and how she was only out to make my life hell. Curtis and I had a long talk after that incident with his mother. He apologized on her behalf, but I saw no need for him to do that. At the end of the day, he was on my side, and that was all I wanted. We spent that night editing together the footage we collected over the past few months into half-an-hour-long video. I uploaded the video to my drive and shared the link to it with a member of Ruby's group who I had met one day while shopping for groceries. The woman gave me her phone number in case I was interested in joining the group while I was staying with Ruby. After that, the video spread like wildfire. I was getting texts from everywhere, from people who I had never heard of or met in my life, sympathizing with me. They shared their shock and disgust with Ruby. The next day, Ruby still had no idea of what had happened. She kept herself locked up in her room while Curtis and I busied ourselves with moving out. We decided to spend the night in our new apartment, and Ruby did not even bid us goodbye. The morning after that day, though, Ruby came to our apartment at 7 in the morning and began banging on the door, asking us to open up. I had just woken up, but I knew immediately that she found out what had happened. "What are you talking about? Don't you dare act coy with me. You sent out a video of me to everyone in my group." "I mean, you were just being yourself. What's there to be ashamed of? Do you even know what you've done? Honestly, I don't care. You made my life hell because you were so adamant about your beliefs. This is the least you deserve. I can never walk around in my own neighborhood. I can never step out of my house. My entire reputation has been tarnished, all because you wanted to get some petty revenge. What about the hit I took to my pay because you made me feel crappy for staying in your home? Do you even know why it took Curtis and me so long to find our new place? You don't work. You do not. No woman should be working, especially you." Wow. Even after everyone knows how you really are and you get embarrassed, you're still sticking to your views and trying to make me feel bad. Of course. What I think privately doesn't need to be broadcast to everyone. Well, when you broadcast to everyone that you're someone who believes in the empowerment and upliftment of women, you shouldn't be hiding your true values. You have no right to decide any of that. Sure, but there are women in this town that have been looking up to you. Don't you think it's unfair to them? Who cares about them? Clearly you do. If you didn't, you wouldn't be this ashamed. Everyone's talking about me. No one treats me with the same kindness they used to treat me with, and it's all because of you. Look, I don't know what you want me to do here. Why would you expect people who are practically strangers to treat you with kindness when you don't even treat your own daughter-in-law with kindness? You need to set yourself straight and figure out how to unlearn your old ideals. Now, I have an apartment that I need to move into. Goodbye. Slamming the door in Ruby's face felt insanely amazing. All the tormenting that I bore with finally worked its way into being useful. Of course, Ruby didn't just stop at me slamming the door in her face. She kept harassing us over the next few days by either always coming over or by texting and calling us non-stop. Curtis and I ended up blocking her number and also getting a restraining order after she stalked us and cornered us at a work event that Curtis had. She never failed to keep telling me that I was the reason for her downfall, and she refused to acknowledge that she was the reason. Ruby knew better than to violate a restraining order, so that's when she finally left us alone. Curtis has constantly been checking in on me and making sure that I'm doing okay. I mean, I was severely burnt out and exhausted from having had to deal with Ruby for months and then having to move. But it was all okay because I finally got free of Ruby for good, and because now I have a space of my own to do whatever I please with it. Curtis and I are moving forward together happily. He's set to get a promotion within a few months, and I have been able to earn a lot more now that I no longer have to clean the entire place twice. We're slowly crawling towards a more stable future, and once we get there, we're even planning on having children. It's been a tough journey, but Curtis and I have stuck with each other throughout. So no matter what happens from here out, I know that if I could deal with Ruby, I can deal with anything else that life throws at me.